We live in the age of the permanent record. In 2026, the act of existing has become synonymous with the act of being seen. We are told that if it wasn't captured, it didn't happen, and if it wasn't posted, it didn't matter. Social media has transformed the human experience into a marketplace of personal branding, where your face is the logo and your life is the product. But in this sea of hypervisibility, there is a quiet, growing minority. The people with active accounts but zero posts. The people who haven't updated their profile picture since 2018. The digital ghosts. To the average user, this behavior is baffling. Is it low self-esteem? Are they hiding something? Are they just boring? Psychology suggests the answer is far more complex. For many, digital invisibility isn't a lack of confidence. It's a sophisticated psychological strategy. Today, we are dissecting the 10 deep-seated reasons why some people refuse to post their photos and why their absence might actually be a sign of a more highly evolved relationship with reality. The first psychological pillar is high self-monitoring. Developed by psychologist Mark Snyder, this concept describes how much an individual cares about their public image. While a low self-monitor acts the same in every situation, a high self-monitor is a social chameleon. They are hyper-aware of how they are perceived. For these people, posting a photo isn't a casual act. It's a high-stakes editorial decision. They see every flaw, every off expression, and every potential misinterpretation. This is compounded by the spotlight effect, a cognitive bias where we overestimate how much others notice our appearance or behavior. To the digital ghost, a single photo feels like a grand statement that will be analyzed by thousands. The cognitive load required to perfect an image becomes so high that the brain simply decides the cost of entry isn't worth the reward. In the early days of the internet, privacy was a default. Today, privacy is a luxury. There is a psychological power in information asymmetry. When you know what someone looks like, what they eat, and where they vacation, you have a psychological handle on them. You feel you understand their status, their vulnerabilities, and their tastes. People who don't post photos are often practicing a form of strategic mystery. By withholding their image, they maintain control over their narrative. They understand that in a world of total transparency, the person who remains opaque holds the most power. They aren't hiding. They are simply refusing to be consumed. They value being a subject, the person who watches, rather than an object, the thing being watched. Why do some people crave likes while others are indifferent? The answer lies in the nucleus accumbens, the brain's reward center. Every time you receive a notification, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. However, the dopamine sensitivity threshold varies from person to person. For the poster, the social validation of a like provides a significant neurological high. For the digital ghost, the reward is often too small to overcome the anxiety of the post. They may have a lower sensitivity to digital social rewards, or perhaps they derive their dopamine from internal validation or real-world interactions. To them, the like button is a glitch in the human social system that they simply don't feel like playing with. We can model the probability of a person posting PP as a function of the expected social reward ER minus the perceived social cost. C. PP 1 by C RC1. If the cost, anxiety, effort, vulnerability outweighs the reward, the individual stays invisible. Psychologically, humans are meant to be fluid. We change our minds, our styles, and our identities every few years. However, the internet is a frozen archive. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for our sense of self. For many, posting a photo feels like pinning their identity to a board. They fear that a photo posted today will trap them in a version of themselves they will outgrow tomorrow. The digital ghost values the freedom to reinvent themselves without the baggage of a digital trail. They don't want to look back at 500 versions of their former selves. They want to live entirely in the version that exists right now. They prefer ephemeral existence over digital preservation. Developed by Leon Festinger, social comparison theory states that we determine our own social and personal worth based on how we stack up against others. Social media is a comparison engine. When you post a photo, you are entering the arena. You are asking to be ranked. Digital ghosts often have a high comparison resistance. They realize that the game of who looks better or who is living a more exciting life is a zero-sum game. By not posting, they opt out of the competition entirely. They refuse to let their self-worth be a variable in an algorithm. They find peace in the blind spot, the place where no one can compare them to anyone else because they aren't on the board. Your attachment style, while formed in childhood, largely dictates how you interact with others online. Research suggests a link between dismissive avoidant attachment and digital invisibility. These individuals value independence and self-reliance above all else. They often view seeking attention via photos as a sign of weakness or neediness. By not posting, they are sending a psychological signal of autonomy. They are telling the world, I don't need your approval to feel complete. While this can sometimes lead to isolation for the digital ghost, it is a point of pride. They find safety in the distance they keep between their private self and the public gaze. We are no longer just people, we are data points. Algorithms analyze our faces to determine our age, our mood, and our consumer preferences. Many people who refuse to post their photos are reacting to the dehumanization of the image. They recognize that once a photo is online, it is no longer theirs. It becomes property of the platform, fuel for AI training, and a target for judgment. They choose to remain subjective beings. They want to be known for their thoughts, their actions, and their presence in the physical room, not as a JPEG that can be swiped away in half a second. They reject the idea that their physical form is their most valuable asset. For a segment of the population, there is a belief that the physical self is the least interesting thing about a person. This is common among high intellect or highly creative individuals. They would rather post a quote, a piece of art, or a photo of a book than a photo of their face. This is a form of intellectual gatekeeping. They want to attract people who value their mind, not their aesthetic. By removing the visual shortcut of a face, they force people to engage with their ideas. They believe that a selfie is a reduction of the human spirit, and they refuse to participate in the flattening of their personality. There is a psychological phenomenon where the act of taking a photo actually impairs the memory of the event. This is known as the photo-taking impairment effect. Digital ghosts are often people who are hyper-focused on mindfulness. They find that the moment they think about how this will look on Instagram, they have mentally left the room. They experience a form of lens dissociation, the feeling that the camera is a barrier between them and life. They choose to never post because they want to always feel. They value the biological memory, the smell of the air, the sound of the laughter, over the digital artifact. They would rather have a blurry memory of a perfect moment than a perfect photo of a moment they weren't really present for. In a world where everyone is a brand, being an anti-brand is the ultimate form of authenticity. Marketing psychology tells us that scarcity creates value. By being the only person in a group who doesn't post, the digital ghost becomes the most interesting person in the group. Their absence creates a vacuum of curiosity. This is the ultimate psychological flex. It says, my life is so fulfilling that I don't have time to document it. My relationships are so secure that I don't need to broadcast them. In the economy of attention, silence is the loudest sound you can make. The decision to never post your photo isn't a glitch. It's a choice. It is a refusal to turn your life into a performance. It is an act of reclaiming the private self in an age of public consumption. Whether it's driven by high self-monitoring, a need for autonomy, or a simple lack of interest in the dopamine loop. Digital invisibility is a powerful statement. It reminds us that we are more than our pixels. We are complex, fluid, and uncapturable. The next time you see a profile with 0 posts, don't ask what they are hiding. Ask what they are protecting. Because in a world where everyone is looking for a like, the person who isn't looking for anything is the only one who is truly free. Goodbye.